All right. I think we can get started. So thank you everyone who is joining us today to talk about social media and the exciting new Finalsite social media connector. Alex and I are here today to talk through some best practices with you and then how you can put those best practices into your strategy with our new product, which we're really excited about. So we can hop right into this. Just to introduce myself, my name is Kristen Doverspike. I am Finalsite's inbound marketing manager. For the last, 5 or so years, I've worked in marketing, really love talking about social media and helping schools like you really hone in on your strategies to really connect with more families. I am remotely located in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am joined today by my colleague, Alex.
Hey everybody, I am the product manager here at Finalsite for our core platform. I've been at Finalsite for 11 years. They poached me right out of college, and I've been in the product management team for 8 years right now. Composer was the first product I helped roll out. The mobile app, resources, and posts, and in addition to many more, are kind of in my product portfolio at this time, as well as our social media connector that we're going to be talking about today. I am located here in New Haven, Connecticut, the home of Yale, and most importantly, the greatest pizza in the world. So if you happen to be down here, make sure you go to Modern, not Pepe's or Sally's. That's a little insider knowledge right there.
I don't know, those might be fighting words, Alex. I don't know if we have anyone here who has pizza who they feel is the best, but I can attest that it's very good in New Haven. So we are so excited to talk about social media with you today. If you've ever joined me on another webinar, I've for sure talked about some of these strategies. But really, when you're thinking about your social media strategy overall for your school or district, it's really not a podium for you to talk about yourselves, which I think it can be a difficult kind of hole to dig, is that you use social media for just information about your school, important things that you want to get out. But really, at the end of the day, your social media accounts should really be social, and they're really a place to connect with your community. So when we're thinking about your overall strategy, it's important to think about that information that you're putting out there and really providing the content that can be most helpful for your community rather than content that's just helpful for you. So on the next slide here, we'll talk about one of the things that I really love to think about when you're looking at your entire social media strategy, and it's called the 70-20-10 rule. So what this means is that 70% or just the large majority of your content that you put out on social media should be engaging, entertaining, or educational. Really, what you're looking for there is getting engagement from your community, providing content that is helpful to them. The next 20% should be content that can be shared from other sources. If you have a trusted institution that you share content from, another maybe community member that you share content from, that can be in that little 20%. And then the very last piece, which is just a small portion of your overall calendar, which is 10%, should be self-promotional. So if you're an independent school, this can include admissions messages. If you have any open houses coming up, that would be considered self-promotional. And really what we're looking for here is that your calendar, when you look at it in general, should not be promotion, promotion, promotion. It should really be looking to provide content to your families that is helpful to them, that they want to see. They want to see your students, they want to see your campus. And that's the content that just in general, when we're talking social media algorithms, will show up higher in the newsfeed and then in general get you more interactions. So when we're thinking about your entire calendar, I'd love for you to think about the 70-20-10 rule. It doesn't have to be down to the exact science of the percentages, but just make sure that that large majority of content is engaging, which we'll get into in terms of how you can grab that content. But on the next slide, I'd really love to talk about just two core channels, Facebook and Twitter. And they're different in nature, obviously. So Facebook is a little more storytelling in nature. Your captions can be a little longer, whereas, Twitter is very short, news-like updates. You can tweet more often. They're smaller in terms of overall character count. You can use it like your newsroom, whereas Facebook is really a larger community where you can share photos. You'll connect with your community more there. So it's important overall to take a look at these channels and where you're putting out your content and think about the nature of them and how your content should really cater to those platforms to be able to engage with your families appropriately. Because what will happen is if someone's on Twitter, they're expecting to see short updates. Whereas when they're on Facebook, they're going through, they might be more willing to read more content. And in general, if they're following you both on Facebook and Twitter, say, if they're on Twitter first and see a great piece of content that you put out, and then they go over to Facebook later and they see the exact same piece of content, they'll be less likely to engage with that piece on Facebook because they've been there, done that. They've already seen that on Twitter. So kind of go into this mindset when you're creating your overall calendar, when you're creating your content, and we'll go into how we can make this not be as stressful for you in a little bit. But going into the next slide here, I'd love to share just a few universal truths with you, just so if you have one big takeaway from just the best practices portion of this webinar, is that one, no one wants to see the same caption on all platforms, like I just mentioned. If you do that, you're just really hurting yourselves in terms of guaranteeing engagement on every platform and then really future-proofing your engagement later, making sure that your content is continuing to be shown at the top of the news feeds. So instead of showing the same captions all the time, what I would recommend is pulling snippets of content to use across all of these channels. So while you don't have to have something unique on every single channel, it's important to just make some small tweaks. You know, on Twitter, you want it to be a little shorter. You want to have a hashtag. If it's Instagram, you can have a longer caption. Same with Facebook, and LinkedIn might be a little more professional in tone. So in general, just kind of think about that with that mindset. You can share the same blog, you can share the same piece of content, but adjust those captions so that they look a little different. And then number two, there's always something to share. I think that's one of the most frustrating things to hear is when you just feel like there's nothing to share today. Maybe you don't have anyone on campus. Maybe you don't have any photos that you can take right now. When in doubt, you can post a throwback. Nostalgic content is one of the most top engaged pieces of content. So, you know, go back into the archives, pull out something that you maybe have done in the past, maybe old photos, and there's always something to share when you think in this mindset. So those are just a few golden rules of social media that I hope you'll take into practice, you know, moving forward. But taking all of these into account, I'd love to now pass it over to Alex to talk about how you can do this very easily with the social media connector.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Kristen. So Finalsite Social Media Connector was released a couple weeks ago, and it is available to all Finalsite clients at this point. There's no additional charge. All you need to do is enable in your website. If it doesn't show up there, you're going to need to talk to one of your admins to make sure you've been granted permissions to do it. So the core piece of the social media connector is it's a way for you to connect your Facebook pages and Twitter accounts to your website. Once those accounts are connected, you'll be able to pick from those accounts within the posts module to share your post to Facebook, to your Facebook page, and to your Twitter account. So we'll jump into a little demo, and these demos for me are always the most stressful part of a presentation because it really requires me to think on my feet here and make sure everything works correctly. So from your dashboard or anywhere else on your site, in the modules list, you're going to see a new little guy down here for social media connections. We have already gone through and connected our Finalsite accounts, and you might be able to see where this is going. So not only is it going to be a live demo, it's going to be a live demo posting to our official accounts. So if you don't see my name listed in the staff portal in a week, you'll know that this did not go well. So once you have come in here for the first time, you're going to create an account, select between the two social media platforms. I'm already logged into my Facebook account. Let's see. You guys able to see this window?
I see the composer window with the social media connections.
So let me reshare then. Desktop. See the Facebook window?
There we go. Yep.
Perfect, perfect. So you're probably very familiar with this window. Many Facebook apps use it. I've already connected to it, but when you first log in, you'll request and grant it permissions. And then I have two Facebook pages that I have set up. The Finalsite one we already have in here, but I also have a demo page that I use. So you'll select your page in here, click through. It will ask you about the permissions you need to use. Know that we're never going to post automatically for you. We aren't doing anything in terms of reading the data. These are just the permissions we need to access the account and post on your behalf through posts. So once you have it set up, we're all linked, and we pick off that one, and it's now an available page in our social media posts to start posting to. So with that in mind, we're going to come over to posts where we have this article pre-written in our Finalsite blog. So this is about the 5 best high school web pages that are out there. And so within this, the 3 pieces of content we're going to be sharing for each post are the plain text summary, the thumbnail image, and then a link back to that post. So we have this guy already set up to share, but we first need to specify the accounts we're going to be sharing it to. So here's where things get dangerous for me. We're going to select our Finalsite account and our Finalsite Twitter account to share to. So within each one of these, on the scheduled date, which is not yet in place, we're going to be sharing these posts to the Facebook page and the Twitter account at the same time. But as Kristen said, we really want to be able to customize the messaging we use for each to share to each one of these accounts. So we can come in here and for each one, edit the content that's going to be shared and the thumbnail that's going to be shared specifically for each one of those platforms. So it's pre-filled with our plain text summary, but if I want to come in here and edit my Facebook account, I can create that storytelling content that is very different from the content that we will have in the plain text summary. So I can go ahead and post this in, and you'll see that we can include not only the text, but emojis as well. So another great way to garner attention to this is using those emojis in this section. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. We've customized the content now for Facebook, and we'll come in here and now customize it for Twitter. And again, as Kristen said, this Twitter content, we just want them to be short news updates. So I'll go ahead and paste in our content here. You're going to see our little meter increases and decreases to give you a sense of how close we are towards the limit that Twitter sets. And in addition to those emojis, we also have our hashtag being shared as well. So once these share to Facebook, we have them set up. I'm now going to set our publish date. And we'll see that this will be shared. So I'm going to update. And we're going to run into some login errors on my side. Show you behind the scenes there. All right, so we're going to go back in here, select our Facebook page. Customize again. Customize again. And now we'll try once more with my login actually in place. 16 and update. So now in a minute, you will see that this post not only shows up on your website as it normally would with any post that gets published, but it's also going to publish out to our Finalsite Facebook page and our Finalsite Twitter page. So I'm just going to come in here and open up our Finalsite page. We're going to see in about a minute new posts show up in here. Then we go to Twitter. And we won't do that because I'm not logged in, but you can follow through that on your own side. Now we hit 116. This is also the most exciting part of the demo as we wait for Facebook.
There it is.
Yep, our post now shared. So we have that custom content we sent, we have our thumbnail image from the post, and most importantly, we have our link back to the post on our website. So now I can click on this, and it's going to redirect us over to our Finalsite page where the full content of that blog is now in place. So key thing here is we really want to redirect your users, your visitors, and your readers on Facebook and Twitter back to your website to read the full context, the full content of your post. So what is included in Facebook, what is included in Twitter is just a quick summary that encourages your visitors to come over to your actual website to view your content. So with that in place, the only other thing I did want to share here is that you can retroactively share any previously published posts. So if you're really excited about this right now, you want to start using it, you can go back to any post that you've published, change the publish date to be sometime in the future, update it, and then it's going to share out to Facebook and Twitter as you have those two things set up. So
Awesome. Yeah. And I think there's so much good about this because when we go back to those initial strategies that we talked about at the beginning, you should be posting different content on all of your platforms. So this really gives you the outlet to do that easily, all within one place. So if you're posting something from your website, you can go ahead and create that content while you're already in that mindset right there and then hit publish, and you can make sure that it's custom per channel. Two, I know we had talked about one of the other kind of golden rules is posting a throwback. If you don't have anything to share, you can go ahead and do that right from your website. If you're thinking, okay, we actually have a piece of content from a while back, we can head back into the archives, we can post it right there. So it's a really, really great tool for Finalsite clients. And even if you're not a Finalsite client and are interested, we'd love to hear from you to use this great tool. Now, Alex, I know we had some questions pop in here. So one question regarding Instagram. So asking if this interfaces with Instagram.
Yeah, so we started off with Facebook and Twitter. We really wanted to build this around the model where you're sharing a link to a page back on your website. Everybody that uses Instagram and has used it kind of for your marketing knows there's not really a way for you to share a link back to a page, which is a constant source of frustration. So there are a number of sources around there, a number of services around that have come up with solutions to this. You'll very frequently see a link to bio that will take you back to the main blog landing page. We're still looking at some ways that we can facilitate that sharing to Facebook or sharing to Instagram, that it's going to allow you to share the content of that post out, but we're really still trying to find the best way to do that. So we're still looking at Instagram. Our ideas portal through your site, great place for you to share that. The more votes we get, the more likely and higher prioritize that feature. So please go to the ideas form for that one.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Alex. And then I have another question here. Does changing the publish date to a future time also mean that the post then gets pulled into the top of the post list / scroll feature? Is there a way to retroactively post without changing that order on the website?
Yeah, so it will change that order on the website. It will push it up to the top. But what you can do is you can set that date to be published in the future, have it sent out through Facebook and Twitter, and then change the publish date back to its original date. So it's a little bit of a workaround there to do that, but it will allow you to share those off to Twitter and Facebook really quickly and easily, but then come back in there and put it back to its place in your post list.
Awesome, thank you. And the questions are rolling in, so we'll just keep rocking here. Simone is asking if Finalsite feeds will be expanding, moving more toward something like Mel Waters' news feed feature. So an example is cherry picking posts from social news on the internet and curating unique feeds elements on web pages.
Yeah, so the first thing I would do here quickly is to draw a distinction between our Finalsite Feeds product and the Finalsite social connector. So Feeds is a way of pulling in posts from your social accounts into your website, displaying those posts on your site. So you really could share the posts out using the connector and then pull them into your website using the Social Feeds product. Right now, Feeds is just for pulling in content out of your social media platform. So posts from Facebook, posts from Instagram, posts from Twitter. You could theoretically share a link to a news article through any one of those social channels and then have it pull into your Feeds element. But we have no plans to actually share content directly from posts into social, the Feeds element itself. You can also use the curation tools in Finalsite Feeds to then kind of manipulate it a little bit more and promote the various posts to make those a little bit more prevalent to anybody visiting your website.
Awesome, thank you. Next up, we have, can non-admin users use the social media option in posts?
Yes, so great question. In the social media connector, you have the ability to set up permissions. And I'll just look at this very quickly. For each one of your accounts, you can come in here and set specific permissions. So if Kristen doesn't want me sharing, she cannot grant me permissions in here. But we can go ahead and select individual users and grant them permission to post here, or entire groups. So if you have your marketing team, if you're the marketing manager, the marketing team doesn't necessarily have permission to admin permission to your Facebook pages. Then you can come in here, connect it yourself, and then grant those users permission to come in here and do that. One thing I will, that actually introduces a caveat that I didn't mention. To connect one of these pages, you have to be an admin of that Facebook page. It's a little bit different with Twitter where you just need the account access. You actually have to have the admin right for the Facebook page to connect it here in the first place.
Yes, good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Right. Another attendee, except for Instagram, would you consider adding LinkedIn as another connector option?
That's another great one. LinkedIn, I think, is much more similar to Facebook and Twitter in the fact that you can share those links back to your website. Another one that we're thinking about adding, and another one that would be great to share to the ideas portal. Because again, the more use cases for it, the more people vote for it, the more likely and the higher up we're going to prioritize that in our product portfolio, product roadmap.
So, next up, does the board have to be showing on the website? What if we don't use the board on the website but are sharing to social media?
So you do need to have a board connected to, you do need to have that post in a board that exists publicly on your site. So for those of you who aren't familiar, boards in posts are the location where each post is kind of organized together. It's like a blog to collect those. For that blog, you do need to have a page set up on your website to display all of those posts. So if you don't have that set up, we don't know where we're actually going to show that post on your site. So you do need to have a page set up. You don't necessarily need to have it listed. So in your navigation, you don't need to necessarily have it available to external or internal site search, but it does need to be available to the public out there. So we have some page to send them back to when that link gets shared to Facebook or Twitter.
Great. And another question here is asking if you can take an email that was sent and push it in social media. I'm assuming this is asking about messages and if there's connectivity there, workflows, all that good stuff.
There's not connectivity there yet, but it is something we are looking at doing in the future. So that's a great question. Getting a little bit ahead of the there, but with our kind of all-in-one communications platform, obviously social media is a big piece of the communications you need to push out. So providing Facebook, Twitter, and then Instagram, LinkedIn, as you talked about, would be other great connections to it, and things we might be thinking about. We'll see.
We have a really good group of product brainstormers here in this webinar today. Awesome. Now I know we have another question in the Q&A asking to show the setup portion again. To that, I will say this webinar has been recorded and it will be sent out to you, I believe tomorrow, if not Monday. So you will have that. You can, keep it with you and look at that setup portion so that you can set it up on your own site. And I think that takes us to the end of our questions. Unless anyone else has any last minute questions, I'll wait just a moment in case you have anything else you'd like Alex to help answer. But if you don't and think of something in the future, please feel free to write down Alex's email here. He'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the social media connector. And if you have any just general social media questions, I'm happy to answer those if you email me at kristen.doverspike@finalsite.com. And otherwise, if you're here with us and aren't a Finalsite client, but are interested in what this could mean for you on your own school or district's website, please feel free to head over to finalsite.com or email Alex or I directly, and we'd be happy to get those conversations started for you. So with that, I don't see any other questions. Do you have anything else, Alex?
Yeah, the one other thing I would share is if you are interested in learning more and setting this up on your site, please search our knowledge base because I have a whole article about setting this up, how it's used, and some advice on how best to use it on your site. So if you don't want to watch the video again, specifically that portion where I accidentally logged myself out and bubbled through it, please feel free to check out the knowledge base.
Right, awesome. Well, thanks, Alex, and thanks everyone who joined us today. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Have a great day, everyone.